Good morning, boys and girls. Happy Wednesday. Today is NTI day 28. Today we are starting Module 4 review. We're going to talk about line plots, and then we're going to talk about writing fractions as division and division as fractions. And so we're going to start with the line plot, and then I wrote up here at the top, line plots help us organize a set of data or information. And so I have a little bit of data here I wrote out a little story for you. It says Miss Henson's class collected rainfall in a rain gauge outside their classroom window over a 10-day period. Use the data to create a line plot. And so if you notice the word line in the word line plot, we're going to use a number line, okay? So I'm just going to draw our line here. No, that was not very pretty, but just bear with me. And then what we want to do is whenever you create a line plot, first I'm going to give it a total. So I'm just going to put rainfall amounts. It's always good to give your, I guess I could have just typed, but rainfall amounts, and then whatever you're measuring in, that's important too. I'm just going to put inches there, okay? And then what you want to do is you want to look at your data. You could even put Miss Henson's class up here if you wanted to, like a title, and then this is going to be a title for our information. And so what you want to do is you want to look at your data, and because you want to know what to start your number line with and what to end your number line with. And so we want to look for the least amount of data and the greatest amount of data. And so when you look through this data, pause the video and see if you can figure out what the least amount of data is, what least amount of rainfall collected. Okay, so you should have come up with 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to start 0 down here, and we're going to make, it worked out for us there, this 1/4. And you also need to ask yourself, what do you think their measurements are counting by? What can we count by on the number lines? Fourths, eighths, halves, whole numbers? What do you guys think? Okay, yes, very good. So we're going to be going in fourths. So what I want to do is, this could be 2/4, but we could also name that in its simplest form as 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to delete our title down there because I think we get the idea for that so that I have some room. And so instead of saying 2/4, we can actually put 1/4 there because we want to write in simplest form. And then we would have 3/4, and then 4/4, which would equal 1 whole. And then what is our greatest amount of data? What do you think we need to go up to? Very good. So 1.5 is actually our greatest amount of data. So we're going to have 1 and 1/4. And then our last line is going to be your greatest amount, 1 and 1/2. And I could have gone all the way up to 2 wholes, but I don't have 1 and 3/4, and I don't have 2 wholes, so they're not necessary on our number line. And then what we're going to do is we're going to actually count the number, how many times they measured 1/4 over the 10-day period. So, and what we use is we use X's to represent each of the 10 days. So we should have 10 X's on our line plot because we're tracking data over a 10-day period. So we're going to start with 1/4. How many 1/4s can you count? How many X's should we have above the 1/4 inch? Yes, very good. We should have 3. Okay. And then how many 1/2 inch measurements did they have? Yes, very good. Just 1. Good job. And what about 3/4 inches? Remember, you can always pause the video if you need more time. And yes, very good. There were 2. 2 days had 3/4 of an inch in their rain gauge. And then how many 1 inch? Yes, very good. 2. And then what about 1 and 1/4 inches in their rain gauge? Yes, 1 day had 1 and 1/4. What about 1 and 1/2? Yes, very good. Just one as well. And then after you get finished, after you create your line plot, just like this, you may end up having some questions about it. For example, it could say, which amount of rainfall occurred the most? And you know, if you look here, you have there were 3 days that had a 1/4 inch of rainfall. So 1/4 inch would be your answer to that. It could ask you about the days. It could say which day, and your answer would be, you know, one of these numbers. Which day had the most amount of rainfall? And so that would end up being, you know, you could go to the rainfall here, and whatever day this was, so we can say that it was day 10, yes. It could also say which days had the least amount of rainfall. And we know that this is our least amount. So which days had 1/4 inch? We would put day 1, day 4, and day 7. Different things like that is what you could be asked about a line plot. And so you would use your information from this line plot. Okay? All right, so we're going to move on down the page to fractions as division and division as fractions. This was super exciting because this is something that we already apply whenever we have an improper fraction. And so it's actually nothing, it's not really new for you all. And so, for example, if you notice here, I have 3 improper fractions. And whenever we went over adding and subtracting fractions, we ended up with an improper fraction as an answer. What would I say our strategy was? Yes, to divide. So when we're writing a fraction as division, we are literally, the numerator becomes your dividend and your denominator becomes your divisor. And that is literally it. The first number of the numerator is your first number, the denominator is your second number. Same for, this would be 12/5, the fraction. So I would write 12 divided by 5. As simple as that, guys. Keep it. I even wrote that one up there. Sorry about that. And then a 34 halves would be written as 34 divided by 2. You know, and remember, the numerator is your dividend and the denominator becomes your divisor. And if we were to put these in a box, remember how we talked about dividing? The first number goes inside the box. And so 4/3 is equivalent to 4 divided by 3, which is equivalent to 4 divided by 3. Okay. 12/5 is equivalent to 12 divided by 5 and equivalent to 12 divided by 5. Okay. 34 halves is equivalent to 34 divided by 2, which is equivalent to 34 divided by 2. Okay. Now let's look here. 1 and 1/2. When we wrote these as division equations or number sentences, what did we have? We just had a numerator and a denominator. What do you notice about these? They're actually all improper, and they don't have to be. We could even have down here. We could even have 5/6, and that would still be written as 5. You know, the division symbol divided by. Oh, sorry, I can borrow that one up there. 5 right here divided by 6. Okay, so 5/6 is written as 5/6. Sorry, those were all improper. So in this case, we need just a numerator and just a denominator. Who can remember how to write a mixed number with just a numerator and a denominator? What should we do? What should we turn it into? Yes, we need an improper fraction here. So if I have 1 and 1/2, there are 2 ways that I could do this. So I'm trying to write 1 and 1/2 as an improper fraction. There are 2 ways. We've already talked about this in module 4 or in module 5 whenever we worked with in module 4 when we multiplied mixed numbers. We also talked about this in module 5 when we learned about area when we worked with area. So remember, this whole is worth what as a fraction? Remember, it's cut into 2 parts and it's all shaded. Yes, 2 halves. So if this whole is worth 2 halves, what's 2 halves plus 1/2? 3 halves. Or you all also learned that you could multiply the whole number times the denominator. 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 equals 3, and our denominator stays the same. So 1 and 1/2 would be written as the division equation, 3 divided by 2. Okay? Because 1 and 1/2 equals the improper fraction, 3/2. Don't let this one trick you. It is going to be on your assessment, okay? All right, let's look down here. So same thing as we've been doing above. Now, and I'm sorry, I guess I could have put division symbols in these instead of writing divided by. Sorry about that. If you see that on your assessment, that just means the division symbol. So same as up here. If I have 4 divided by 3, that equals 4/3. If I have 12 divided by 5, that equals 12/5. If I have 34 divided by 2, that equals 34/2. If I have 5 divided by 6, that equals 5/6. So 1 divided by 4 would equal, yes, 1/4. 7 divided by 20 would equal 7/20. 15 divided by 2 would equal 15/2. Yes, very good. So that first number is your numerator. The second number is your denominator. Same thing here. The first number is the numerator is the first number. The denominator is the second number, okay? All right, guys, so that's it for Module 4 today, reviewing line plots and fraction as divisions, division as fractions. If you have any trouble while you're working on your assessment, those of you at home, you have a paper copy. And those of you who are working through Google Classroom, you have a Google form today. If you have any trouble, please come back to the video and rewatch a second time and do some more practice, okay? All right, guys, I hope you have a great Wednesday. I'll see you tomorrow. If you have any questions, you can holler at your teacher as well. See you guys.